tell us, why is it so hard? Why is all this concept, whether it's data, it's measurement, it's effectiveness, it's ROI, having a sense of confidence of what we're buying and what it's going to do or what it has done for us, why is it so hard?
Well, I think there are two sort of forces that got us to where we are. And one is that the early promise of digital and the way sort of digital optimization has worked has led us down a dangerous path where optimization is about short-term campaign level. We're going to prove that this thing worked. And so the data that we buy and use has been more focused on showing short-term gains because they're easy to show than thinking about how data fits into a broader audience strategy that looks holistically at, call it the whole marketing funnel, the consumer journey, the, true inventory optimization from the sell side.
And when you talk about optimization and your clients that you serve, so let's chunk it. They're more short-term focused. When you talk about performance of campaigns, is it about business outcomes? Is the mind share focused on business outcomes, or are you measuring success vis-a-vis defined media metrics of success?
Well, my take is the reason we ended up going to outcomes is because we don't actually have an accurate way to count what happened. And so we just kind of fudged it and skipped that part. And that was actually my number two concern, is that we're still living in a world of measurement companies and technologies that were designed for the media ecosystem where there were 3 TV networks and where looking at a ratings number was a reasonable volume proxy for who was doing what. And now we live in a world where there are essentially infinity options of what a consumer can be doing at any particular point in time in terms of their content and their advertising engagement. And the only way you can get to accurate measurement of that is to look at each atomic exposure, call it a device level delivery, right? Because an impression is really a delivery plus a human. And or some number of humans. And I think if you focus on, first we need to know delivery, then we need to know delivery plus humans, then we need to be able to connect that to what happened afterwards. That lets both the buyers and the sellers be smart about how they engage their consumers and how they measure, what KPIs they want to measure against. And I think if you skip that counting step and go directly to we're going to do it on an outcome, you necessarily sort of collapse the entire conversation into this campaign did awesome because more people bought beds or beer or subscribed to a newspaper.
So the average is a C student, Mr. Steuer, and I, to be very candid, struggle with the reality of the expectation that we're going to be able to entertain the idea of folks sitting at a table talking about the complexity of the how as a means by which to develop a strategy and a plan and make investment strategy. How do we, what's in between the two? Between being so myopically focused and trying to oversimplify, we distill value and we minimize performance over the long term versus getting into the weeds and people's heads exploding. Like, how do we find that balance?
That's a great question. I think it's two things. One, it's about simplification, because we've overcomplicated all this stuff by fragmenting it to the point where there is no standard data set, there's no standard interface, there's no standard way to look at outcomes. So you've just got people who spend a huge chunk of their time and attention swirling around what's the right thing to do as opposed to focusing on doing the thing. And I think the other piece of it is, so you need better platforms that are simpler, and you need a standard underlying data set that everybody can trade on, so that instead of worrying about the sort of information gradients around who has what data and can do what better than the other folks, you can at least look at reach and frequency across everybody, right? And that's a simpler story than the business outcomes on network X versus the different KPI business outcomes in my local buy.